We are rolling. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome back to Astrology Today with Jeff Harmon. I'm Jeff's assistant, Ella. We hope you all are doing well. So we're going to kick this episode off, Jeff, talking about the election, kind of like a recap. You've had several clients ask you about the video that we put out on Monday. And I think the focus tonight is just to reiterate that the chart showed we wouldn't know right away. And this is where we're at. We don't know. Things are kind of in limbo.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's right. You know, when the question was posed and we put out that video, I said it leans towards the Republican. I never felt that it was going to be the red wave everyone was predicting. You know, if you remember all the media, everybody, it's going to be a red wave. That chart did not look like that. What it looked like to me is just what's happening. And that it looks like a lot of subterfuge, confusion, because the ruler of the ascendant was retrograde, and it just didn't look like we'd get clarity on this. More importantly, it showed we wouldn't know the answer right away. Right. We'll be lucky if we know in a week. It could take a lot longer than that. Well, look what's happening right now with the Warnock and the Walker. I think it's Walker, Herschel Walker, the runoff in you know, and we get the same thing going on with Masters and Lake and the other candidates in Arizona. So there's a lot of ambiguity, and the House right now is hanging at, I think it's 209 to what is it, 107 or something? I've got it right here.
187, I think. 209.
Yeah, that's right. It's 189 to 209, and there are 37 seats left in play. Now, I don't know about you, but I remember throughout my lifetime, we always knew the answer on election night.
Oh, on election night, absolutely.
Election night. And, you know, ever since 220, and look at where we're at. Now we're constantly, you know, kept in limbo land, recounts and people making accusations, so on and so forth. So the chart's been right. It really has, you know.
Yeah, it has. It's definitely being correct. And so what else have clients wanted to know about that chart? Because you were getting specific questions about that chart that we cast on Monday. I think people are upset.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of people are upset. You know, everybody's worried on one side and the other. And, you know, again, I'm not taking political sides here.
Yeah.
We all vote the way we vote, you know, and that's our own privacy and what we want to do. But I'm just reading the chart, and the chart is, in my opinion, right on, because it basically is saying we wouldn't know the answer. It's going to be a lot of accusations, and I really think there's some deceit going on here. And again, I'm not here making claims on any one side or the other, but we had the ruler of the ascendant retrograde squaring Neptune. What does that mean? That means there's definitely something not forthright in this. They're not telling us the truth in certain areas. Now, I know on the conspiracy theories on the web, we're hearing all kinds of allegations of this and that and what have you on voter fraud. I'm not making that allegation. I'm saying that the chart indicates something like that may be going on. That's all I'm saying. Right. So there's definitely something that's not right with this. Yeah. And I think that might be discovered down the line. And, you know, again, we have a runoff in, you know, Georgia. So all this stuff is going on, and it's been right on with the chart. So we're going to see where it goes. Again, you know, even look at the Senate. It's I'm looking at it right now on the app here. And they're hanging at 49 Republican, 48 Democrats. There's only 3 seats left.
I know.
And, you know, this could go either way. I'm just saying the chart leans towards it's going to be a really, really tight race. And the Republicans will probably just barely grab the House. That's what it shows. The House, I think they'll grab more securely, but it's the Senate. They're probably just going to eke ahead to where the Senate is.
That is what the chart showed. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it did not show a landslide like everybody said. You know, everyone was saying, "Oh, there's going to be a red wave. They're just going to take over." I didn't get that at all.
I didn't see it. I didn't see that.
Not in that chart.
I don't think it would happen either. Things are too all over the place for something like that to happen. I feel like the powers that be Won't let that happen.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but the owners at the top of the pyramid might just have a little more influence in this stuff than we know. And I really question whether or not we could ever get a full election with integrity. And a lot of people, oh, he's an election denier. No, not at all. I'm just saying I don't trust this system. It's too easily manipulatable. In fact, Politico just made that statement right before the election. Politico came out and they said the voting machines are a lot easier hacked than people think. So it's not me saying it. Now, that's what the chart says.
Right.
So again, this is a newspaper that, is well respected by a lot of people in New York. I think they're in New York, and they feed a lot of information out, I know, to various different agencies, or how it works, I don't know. But all I can say is the astrology indicates something like this is going on. There's also another topic I wanted to bring up, and this is about the world global finances. We've been hearing about Nasara and the global financial resets and all these things going on. And there's a lot of rumors, like Biden apparently has signed some type of an executive order. I don't know what it is, but it's apparently supposed to kick in on the 20th of December. Now, if that's true, which I can't verify that, but the only thing I can tell you is I've had people ask me questions. Jeff, do you think we're going to be going a new one world global currency digital? Because if we get like that, that's where China's at right now. They could literally, that's like some futuristic stuff. If that happened, that would literally mean they could turn off your money in 2 seconds. It would be a digital currency. Right. But, I would also come back with, hey, they can do that right now. If somebody wants to shut down your credit cards or whatever, that can be done in 2 seconds.
In a second. Right.
Yeah, 2 seconds. The only difference is we all have the capability of having cash, right? So you can go in and you can buy groceries, you can buy gas, you can buy whatever you wanted with currency, right? So in order to get that into a full-blown digital world, I'm not seeing that right away, according to the chart. This is not me talking, the astrology. I just actually cast a chart on that, and I'm not going to put it up right now, but I will jump, and I just want to take a quick glance at it while I'm saying this. And I have to say, my take on it right now is not right away. Now, will they eventually? They just might. When? It could be in the next 6-7 years. Timing is really hard to get. And isn't that interesting? I mentioned before, the next big cycle coming at us is going to be the next Saturn-Pluto square, which is going to happen right around 2028. We'll do the math. That's not too far away. Wow. So we're not exact, but it's close. And this is, again, timing is hard to get. But it doesn't show, in order to pull currency off the market and we just be completely digital, that's a ways coming yet. I do think that's going to come eventually someday in the future.
For sure. Oh, for sure. That's going to happen. I actually thought it would have been here by now. This is what I was feeling 10 years ago.
Yeah.
8 years ago, I was thinking, wow, in about 5 years, we're not going to be handling cash anymore. But we still are. So
that's kind of scary. That's kind of scary because you figure the world for, at least as long as we know of, has always had some kind of a physical monetary instrument to exchange with.
Yeah.
It's been gold, it's been silver, it's been, some type of paper currency, checks, all of that.
Right. Well, this will be part of the high-tech era you keep talking about, right? When we hit that mark, that will definitely be.
Well, we've already hit it. Oh, it started in 2020, the winter solstice of 2020. We had the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. This is, going back to George Washington in the 1762 is the fire conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. And what do we have there? We had the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Of course, it wasn't just that day. And people have to realize it never is. These are 240-year cycles. This takes forever to come through. It takes, potentially decades. When you think about the mid 1700s, we were running around with horses and buggies and muskets. Well, it wasn't that much longer. We heard steam was already on the horizon back then. It just wasn't really perfected. Metallurgy was just coming in. And of course, mass production. Benjamin Franklin was one person credited with that. I'm sure there's many others, but I know steam was well on the way in the early 1700s. Exact date on that I don't have in front of me, but it all came along there. And then shortly thereafter, we started in the early 1800s. We saw, steamships. There were trains being done, and railroads, and all the tracks and all the metallurgy necessary for that. And definitely by the mid 1800s, we were seeing it all over the place. And of course, we know the Intercontinental Railroad was put across the United States, at least in the mid 1800s. And of course, that was also going on in Europe and other places in the world too.
Right.
So it took time.
Yeah.
But now we're in a different world. I mean, when you look at where are we now? I mean, the infrastructure that we have since the Industrial Revolution, and then you look at computers, the foundational work is so much more laid and you could say networked for this explosion into the future to happen. We're going to see genetics, artificial intelligence, weaponry. We're already seeing it. The U.S. military and many other militaries, it's all robotics. It's, they're using drones. They're using AI, very advanced stuff from what I hear, genetic, it's on and on, nonstop.
Yeah. And it's not hidden. Like, it's out there. You can search it on the internet and find out about it, so
we
really are in it now. We're in this. It's happening. And it'll be interesting to see where we're at with our currency around 2027 and 2028, because I'm sure the astrology is correct in that we're going to have a big, big shift happen in 2028.
Yep. Well, it's interesting, too. It could happen just slightly before that, because one of the things the ancients said about the great conjunctions, and just for anybody listening, what the great conjunctions are, is they're Jupiter and Saturn in very specific conditions. For instance, like the fire trines would happen, not exactly, but close to every 1,000 years. It was about 900 and something odd years, just short of 1,000 years. And that would be in fire, which was always the beginning. And then the next mutation conjunction would happen 240 approximate years later. It's not exact, but close. And that would always be in the next triplicity, which is earth, air, fire, and water. So we just had an air conjunction in Aquarius. This is why a lot of astrologers and people are saying, we're in the Aquarian age. I don't buy that. I don't think we're in the Aquarian age. I could be wrong, but the calculations I've seen were probably about approximately couple hundred years from it. The Hebrew calendar, I believe, is fairly close to when that will happen. When the Hebrew calendar hits 6,000, we're going to be there. So we're at 570 something right now. So,
you were saying 2240 around that time.
Well, 2240 is much closer to when we have the next Saturn-Pluto opposition. See, yeah, that would be about right. So it's not exact. I don't have that data in front of me, but these big cycles, we'll do another show on that where we get much more accurate. I'll put up data on that because we're just kind of talking about the currency potential resets right now. But those are general timelines that we can say are probably pretty darn close to when things happen. And I always go back to this. People, we remember 9/11. I mean, you're from New York. You remember 9/11. You were there, man. Tell me what that was like, huh?
It was quite intense.
Quite intense, yeah.
Quite intense.
And so horrible what happened to everybody. And that was on the Saturn-Pluto opposition. I remember when that happened, I distinctly remember. I was like, oh my God, I know something's about to happen. And because I saw the Saturn-Pluto opposition in the sky, and that's what happened. And it's usually an act of terrorism, fascism, or something like that. And then we had in 2008 and 2009, we had the housing market crash. That was the Saturn-Pluto square. Well, now COVID just came in you could have set your watch to COVID beginning. On the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. I mean, literally, the newscasting was just shutting this place down. Oh my God, emergency, emergency. Right exactly in January of 2020 when the Saturn-Pluto conjunction happened. But what we're talking about is the Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions. That came and happened later in 2020 on the winter solstice. And those go all the way back to the flood of Noah. And they really do, like 4,000 plus years ago. And that was a conjunction, I believe it was in a water trine. So, and of course it brought a flood, right? So these things always bring major societal changes in waves. And I bring all this up because, you know, it's been asked, you know, what's going to happen here with digital currency? Are we about ready to get our currency ripped out of our hands? You know, they would have to make us all go cash it in. Right. And then you would get an equivalent to digital currency. Now, I know they're trying to do that. And I know they've been wanting to do that. There appears to be several factions out there. And I've had some interesting discussions about this where, and I've been saying this, the war between globalism and fascism is and nationalism, I really should say. It's between globalism and nationalism. And there seems to be some very powerful hidden factions at the top of the pyramid. These are the bankers that are really running everything. They're the ones behind the Fed. They're the ones very mysteriously, no one knows who they are. Yeah. And I can tell you, in my opinion, that's where the big civil war is really going on. And those are the people that control the secret military and a lot of powerful weaponry. Again, I bring up General Petraeus. For him to even come out with comments saying like, well, if Russia uses a tactical nuke, you know, we mentioned this on an earlier podcast, we'll just take out his fleet. Yeah. You know, I actually think they can. You know, I don't personally have any direct evidence, but I've heard things that, we've got some weaponry that is stuff people have never heard of. And they actually can do things. So this is kind of a secret layer to the military, far above the lower branches of what we hear about the Air Force, the Navy, and all that. Not that they're not formidable as well, but I hear there's a lot of very secret stuff going on. And the people who control all this, and that's where I really believe the war is going on, you know, that we're literally going to see one way or another, this all work itself out. So, well,
it's just so sad that we can't figure out another way to work it out, right? It always has to come to violence. Always.
And money.
So they're one and the same, honestly. I mean, since I can remember my grandma, who was born in 1901, talking about violence from, you know, day one. She was always talking about it, what she saw, what she heard, what she experienced, you know, violence, fear. And then that trickled down to my mom because she was around in the 40s. We were just talking about this the other night. Right?
Oh, yeah. And your poor mother, what she went through. I mean, you told me what she went through. It was your mother and her sister were the only two black kids in the school, and how horribly they were treated. Kicked and made fun of.
And that's violence too, right? It's not only, we talk about gun violence or using a weapon, but we hurt each other through our words. We hurt each other through our actions. We really have to look at all of this and come to a much, much better place. We really, really do.
Well, the world's, changing. They say that the consciousness is growing funeral by funeral. There may be some truth to that.
Oh. No. Well, yeah. No, I hope not.
That's not necessary, but it seems to be the way it has to go sometimes.
Yeah.
But I mean, you hear, and that's where we're at right now. And again, we've been talking about this on a lot of podcasts. When you look at, the whole thing on communism and the suppression of the human spirit. And we've been talking a lot about particularly things like the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and, how important this country is to maintaining freedom in the entire world.
Yeah, right. Right. Right.
So
that's the hope. The hope is we talked about Jupiter coming towards us in January. And Jupiter is so powerful and has such a beautiful energy. And I'm looking forward to that. That's the time I'm looking forward to, which is just right around the corner.
Yeah, well, the only thing I can tell you is the naughty astrology. If my mathematics is right, we are heading towards a 12-year Jupiter progression, and we got a lot of stuff going on in this country over the next 2 years. There's the Pluto return, the very deceptive Neptune square Mars, and Pluto is always brutal. It's transformative. It never, in my experience, is anything with Pluto. By the time it's done, you're just going, okay, I'm ready for change because that was brutal. It really is brutal. And we're going to see where this all goes. And this relates to the midterm elections. It also relates to, the currency, the money, where's it going? I think, the Fed raising interest rates is probably, they're trying to cap it off. And in order for them to even be doing that, tells me they're trying to stave off a depression type situation. So there may be this truth to there's two factions up there warring. One wants global communism. They want everybody with a barcode on their forehead or a digital card of currency. And the other one wants to keep the status quo for a while. So we'll see where this all goes.
Right. Let's see.
But in conclusion, I would say the astrology probably is accurate. It always has been. And that is, we're going to really see the next real act of fascism really strongly come in right about 6 to 7, 8 years from now. And that's right when the next Saturn-Pluto square is. So it's coming right up.
It's coming right up.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, it's good to do recaps like this because it's a very nerve-wracking time. And I think people like hearing, it's almost like a reassurance that, what the astrology showed the other night, we're still on track with it, So
pretty bizarre. I mean, when I looked at that chart, I went, we're not going to have the answer right away. And even when we do, it's going to be a very convoluted, strung out situation. And we're probably going to have runoffs and arguments and recounts. And this could take up to 5 weeks before it's fully ironed out.
Right. Well, I love that we haven't seen any violence. And remember, I asked that question if we would see if the chart showed any violence, and it didn't. So that's a wonderful thing that we haven't seen any violence because
it is. And that's what it showed. It showed more subterfuge and coercion and some very underhanded stuff going on, but not so much, anybody's going to take out a gun and shoot anybody or blow something up or whatever. And that hasn't happened. And let's hope it stays that way. Yeah. So great. So we're going to start doing a couple more short episodes, kind of like this, 15 to 20 minutes, just checking in, right? With current events. You'll tap into the astrology and see what the astrology has to say about whatever you're asking about or what we're asking about. Of course, we are still encouraging everyone who wants to ask a question, have Jeff look at something through the astrology. Sure. Please don't be shy. Let us know. And thank you so much for joining us. Are you anything else? No, I think I'm good to go. Well, thank you.
We'll see you soon. Next time, everyone. Thanks so much.
You bet. Thanks for joining us.